The Amahoro Stadium was full of Rwandans and invited dignitaries commemorating the genocide. They watched a symbolic performance about the killing. 20 years ago, thousands of Tutsis were sheltering in this very stadium in fear for their lives. It was too much for some in the crowd. They were overwhelmed by memory and pain. Some were remembering husbands, mothers, children, killed in the 100 days of slaughter. Others were survivors reliving the horror. Some had to be carried out or attended to by counsellors. 20 years, 2 decades. For some, it felt as if no time had elapsed. This is what no one who witnessed it can forget. The roadblocks manned by drunken men with machetes and clubs. These distressing images show one such scene in Kigali. The children were spared, but 2 women were clubbed to death. It was a scene reproduced across Rwanda, a genocide of maybe 800,000 people that the international community failed to prevent or stop. The UN Secretary General acknowledged that failure today.
We could have done much more. We should have done much more. The shame still clings a generation after the events.
The Rwandan government barred the French from today's ceremony, saying France has yet to explain why it supported the genocidal regime in 1994.
The people who planned and carried out the genocide were Rwandans. But the history and root causes go beyond this beautiful country. This is why Rwandans continue to seek the most complete explanation possible for what happened.
Across Rwanda, tens of thousands were murdered in churches. These were Tutsis, the minority ethnic group, killed by militiamen and soldiers who wanted to preserve Hutu power forever. In Akabakobwa in southern Rwanda, perpetrators and survivors used the instruments of genocide to exhume victims for a memorial. 20 years on, Hutu and Tutsi, perpetrator and survivor, must live together, anger and hurt concealed, as they try to forge some kind of reconciliation.
Lindsey, what did you see 20 years ago today?
The plane carrying the presidents of Rwanda and Burundi came down on the night of the 6th. I heard it come down. I rushed into the garden. I saw like a flames, and then I went back to my house. I was at a friend's house, and then the phone calls started, and they were the phone calls from Tutsi friends, people I was working with, because I'd been living there for 2 months working for the UN Children's Fund. And those Tutsis were calling me and saying, they're coming to kill us. I can hear them outside. Come and save me. Come and save me. And I was powerless. I listened to those calls, and I couldn't go and save them because I didn't know where they lived. I couldn't get out of my house for the first few days. There was a soldier there with a gun who made me stay inside. And eventually on the 4th day, I took my car and I drove past him, and I drove through the roadblocks with the men with the red eyes and the broken beer bottles and the machetes and the corpses at the side. And I drove through the roadblocks, and I went to the Red Cross, and I went out with the Red Cross. And with them, I saw what was happening. I saw the bodies of 4 women outside a clinic whose throats had been slashed, the flies on them. I went to the hospital. I saw the blood running in the gutters. I saw a baby with her arm chopped off, and the truckloads and truckloads of bodies coming in. That was what I saw in the first week of the genocide.
Have lessons been learned?
I think some have been learned in the sense that that was such a horror. I think we are now looking for genocide. In those days, nobody even used the word genocide. We didn't think of genocide we thought it was massacres we didn't realize. But when you look at what's happening in the Central African Republic, it's not the same situation. It's very different. It's a chaotic situation there, whereas in Rwanda it was a genocide. It was planned. It was organized. But in terms of the possibility of a reasonably small UN force being able to stop mass killings, I think that could have happened in Rwanda. I think it could happen in the Central African Republic. Whether it will, I don't know.